And this next fight for me is a tough one here with Tyson Pedro against Modestas Bukauskas. Tyson Pedro, he's a fighter that I can't quite get a great read on. He's very imposing. He has a lot of skills. He looks very technical. And recently he's returned from that layoff and ran through two guys, dominated Harry Hunsucker. He finished his other opponent in the first round as well, but the level of opposition that he's had in those two fights have been extremely low. They've almost been kind of tune-up fights in a way after the layoff, you could almost say. And now he's taking on a real guy here in Modestas Bukauskas. Even though it's a short notice fighter, you have to respect Modestas Bukauskas. You know, he was in the UFC before. He was able to be competitive against some good fighters in the UFC, but wasn't that, good in his tenure, so he did get cut. And he ended up losing that fight, if you remember, to Khalil Roundtree via devastating knee injury, and had to battle back from that. Went to Cage Warriors, won the title at Cage Warriors, and now he's back in the UFC. So, in my opinion, I think he's going to be taking this fight extremely, extremely personal. I think he's going to be trying to make things right in the UFC and, show that in his comeback he's going to be someone that is a force to be reckoned with. He just won a belt. He's going to have some confidence. He has that championship swagger. And I don't think he's going to be an easy guy to get out of there for Tyson Pedro. I don't see this just being like his fight with Harry Hunsucker, where he can land a leg kick and end the fight, or his fight with Ike Villanueva, where he could take him out really quickly. I think it's going to be a more difficult fight. And Tyson Pedro does not have a lot of experience in long fights. Usually when he wins, he runs through guys in the first round. And I haven't really seen him have to battle through adversity and come back. I guess I'm wrong with that. I guess you could say the Khalil Roundtree fight, he did get dropped. He was able to end up getting the submission pretty quickly soon after that in the first round. But you look at certain fights that get pushed past the first round, man, and he just falls off a cliff. His volume is gone. For instance, with the fight with Ilir Latifi, he just gets held down. I think a worse example of it is the fight with Shogun Rua, where he really struggled in that fight. And Pedro, I think he's one of these guys that he definitely is a very elite striker. He has really technical boxing, and his kicks on the outside are very effective too. Good front kicks. He throws pretty heavy leg kicks, which I think he's going to be looking to use in this fight. And question mark kicks, head kicks, real fast kicks. But I think his 1-2s, his check hook are really sharp. And when he gets inside, he'll attack the body. He could really land some nice tight shots in the pocket. And I think he has an edge there, pure boxing-wise. But Bukauskas, he, in my opinion, is going to be on the back foot, at least early. But he has a nice jab. And I think that what he needs to do is try to use that jab as Pedro comes in and clinch early on in the fight. And if he can do that, I think he's going to have the better cardio down the stretch. Bukauskas has shown it time and time again that he can come back late. He's gotten a lot of third-round finishes, fourth-round finishes. He's been in title fights, and he's not going to get tired. The guy comes in shape. And unless he's not been training that hard, this is a short-notice fight. He just fought recently, and he's someone that's been really wanting to come back in the UFC, so I'm sure he's been thinking, I got to stay in shape for a short-notice opportunity. So I feel like he is going to come in ready to go. And Bukauskas is also more of a kickboxer, but I think if he can use that clinch and just kind of lean on Pedro, wear on him, and get him tired and then make it much more competitive in the striking. Because early on, I do think that Pedro has the speed edge. He is just a little bit more sharp. Bukauskas has good striking as well. Like I said, he has the jab. He has a pretty good pull too. He keeps it long with his hands also. And then he'll mix in some spinning attacks, and he's a little bit more, I would say, diverse with that than Pedro, where he'll throw some spinning back fists, spinning hook kicks and things like that. But I think that Pedro early on is going to have the speed edge and a little bit of a power advantage. And I just don't know if he's going to be able to get him out of there early, though. I think Bukauskas is going to be able to move around and stay safe, not get finished. And I just question Pedro's gas tank in that second and third round. I question that if Bukauskas lands a big jab or some big shots and starts to gain momentum, is Pedro going to be able to stick in that fight and, mentally battle back and make it a win in a dogfight situation? I don't know. I know Bukauskas can do that. And just with the lineman, I feel like this should be a closer line fight. I don't really see why Pedro is such a big favorite. When you look at, like I said, the fights where he had to actually battle through adversity and be in a tough fight that went a little bit longer, he just hasn't performed that well, in my opinion. And unless you're telling me that he's just going to run through Bukauskas, I don't see him being able to keep that pressure that he keeps on guys early in the fight for 3 rounds. I think that Bukauskas is going to eventually start to be able to change the tide of the fight and go forward, use his jab, maybe clinch, and use the kicks. And I just think he's going to have the more volume. And I also think that another thing that's playing a factor for me is just the mentality of both guys. I'm not saying that Pedro is mentally weak or he's not going to be up for this fight, but I think that Bukauskas has a lot of motivation, having that knee injury, getting cut from the UFC, having a battle back, and having this as his debut. I think he's going to be really, really willing to go out there and lay it all on the line to get a victory. And I just trust Bukauskas here, if the going gets tough, to come out on the other side the victor. And I think that this fight is not going to be as easy as Pedro has had it for the last couple fights that he's had with Harry Hunsucker, with Ike Villanueva. He hasn't been in a hard fight in a long time. And I think Pedro's going to get a little bit of a... I'm not going to say he's going to be done in the UFC or have a... I guess not like a reality check, but I think that he's just going to be in a tougher fight than he thinks it's going to be. And I think that Bukauskas is going to be able to get the win. I think he's going to be able to get a 3rd-round knockout